I'm going to try to keep this intro quick. Long story short, I've been trying to perfect the homemade hoagie roll recipe and process for quite some time. I've made dozens of different hoagie rolls, some decent, some great, some pretty bad. And after a lot of trial and error, a lot of research, a lot of watching other people's videos, I think I've finally done it, and I've come up with a soft, pliable but durable, delicious, original sort of Italian submarine roll. Now the particular style I wanted to go for, which I'm actually going to talk a lot more about in the next video, is from a sub shop in Michigan called Tubby Submarines. I'm going to be making a video showing how to kind of recreate one of their classic sandwiches, and for it I need a proper piece of bread to make this whole thing on. And rather than just going and buying a empty bun from them, I wanted to try to make it myself so I could really recreate the whole experience. But anyway, I'll shut up and we're going to jump into making these hoagie rolls. And I'll try to go through the steps kind of quick because there's a bunch of stuff you got to do, and you got to do it just right to get this beautiful result. So I guess let's get right into it. As always, let's get started by taking a look at our ingredients. And a quick note before I start going through all of them, and that's that I cannot recommend enough that when you're measuring out your ingredients, you do it by weight. I spent years fighting with bread and dough recipes, trying to use cups and tablespoons and so forth, and it's just never going to give you a consistent result because powders such as flour can be compacted or more airy and therefore take up more or less space in a measuring cup. The results from one batch to the next are wildly inconsistent, but for years, this is the way I tried doing it, and there was a lot of playing around with the dough as you went, adding a little more flour, a little more liquid, and so forth. When I started measuring everything by weight, it changed the game entirely, and there's a reason that the professionals do it that way. It just works so well and it's so consistent. But it does mean that if you don't have one, you're going to have to pick yourself up a cheap kitchen scale. But I promise it's worth it. And when I put the recipe in the video description below, all of the quantities are going to be by weight, not by cups or tablespoons or anything like that. That being said, let's get on to the actual ingredients. First, we've got bread flour. If you don't have bread flour, you could use all-purpose, but you're gonna get a better result with bread flour. Next, some milk. We're not just using water for this, we're gonna use milk as our liquid, and I'm using 2% milk. Then, of course, we have our yeast. Then some sugar, some salt, some olive oil, and something called diastatic malt. If you're not familiar with diastatic malt, it's a dough enhancer that pretty much all the professional bakers know about and use, and for some reason, home cooks and amateur chefs just hardly seem to know that it exists. But it's an additive that you put in with your dough that leads to a better rise, a better texture, and even a better flavor. Diastatic malt is just a powder made from processing barley in a particular way. It's not a weird chemical or anything like that, but if you can't find it at your grocery store, you can certainly find it online, and I'll include a link to the kind that I use in the description below. And the first thing I'm really gonna do now that everything's measured out and I'm ready to start this thing is to microwave my milk for just about 42 seconds until the temperature gets to about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Your microwave may need a little more, a little less time, but the idea is that you want your liquid to be right there, somewhere between 105 and 110 degrees. Don't want to go higher than 110, that's too hot, it might kill the yeast. But if you're below 100, 105, the yeast isn't going to activate as well, and everything might take longer or not work quite as well altogether. So here we are at about 108, 109 degrees, and that's just right. So now we're gonna add the yeast granules and that diastatic malt powder. Give it just a little bit of a stir to make sure everything's wet. And now we just have to let this sit here for about 10 minutes until that yeast starts to get a bit foamy on top, and we're certain that the yeast is healthy and good and is activating. And when our yeast is just about ready to use, we're going to go ahead and start combining all of the other ingredients. And since I'm going to start off the mixing and kneading process in the KitchenAid mixer, I'll just use the big KitchenAid mixer bowl. We'll go with our bread flour, sugar, salt, and olive oil. And I'll note that I use sugar for my sub bun recipes, but some people use honey instead of sugar. Still the same amount measured by weight. Whether you use sugar or honey, I've done it with honey, and for sub buns for this recipe, I find that regular white sugar tastes better in the final product. That's more of the flavor I'm looking for rather than what you get if you use honey, but it's up to you. And you can see the yeast mixture has gotten very foamy on top, which means we have some good healthy yeast, and we're gonna go ahead and pour all this right into the bowl. Now I like to give all of this a super quick mix with a fork before I put it on the KitchenAid mixer, just to kind of get all those ingredients incorporated and starting to clump together. And now we're going to the KitchenAid mixer with the dough hook attachment. And we're gonna turn this on and let it go for about 10 minutes. Now, if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, that's okay. You can do this step by hand. Just get all that dough out of the bowl and start kneading. I'm going to be doing a bunch of hand kneading, but I like to start off with the mixer because it really does help to get all the ingredients well mixed together and start to kind of make a nice chunk of dough that's a little easier to knead by hand, but you can do it all by hand. You don't have to have a KitchenAid mixer. So I'm gonna let this go 10 or so minutes. Okay, now we're gonna transfer this dough out onto the counter and start kneading by hand. If the dough feels the littlest bit sticky while you're doing this, that's perfectly okay. It should be just the tiniest bit tacky. You don't want it to be overly dry because then you're gonna have a dry dough. And I'll also mention that the batch we're making today is going to result in 2 pretty enormous sub buns because that's exactly what I'm going for. And I need some huge hoagie rolls for the recipe that I'm doing next. But if you don't want them to be as enormous as these are, and you'll see what I'm talking about closer to the end of this video, you can certainly divide this dough into 3 or 4 pieces instead of 2 and get some smaller sub buns. So I'm just gonna keep kneading this for a solid 10 to 15 minutes, definitely not less than 10, but usually it's just about 15 to get it just to where I want it. If we don't knead long enough, the gluten isn't going to form in the dough enough in the way that we want, and we're not going to get the kind of rise that we need. One of the keys to having a good, airy, soft, non-dense, hard dough is kneading for long enough. So I'm just going to keep kneading and kneading and kneading. All right, kneading done, and I have formed the dough into a ball, and I'm going to just set it right back into my KitchenAid bowl. And now we're gonna cover this bowl up with some plastic wrap. Now we have to let the dough proof. This is where we leave it alone to let the dough rise for the first time. And I'm gonna let this sit for a full hour and a half. And I like to just stick this whole bowl into the oven, with the oven not turned on, of course, because it's a place that's basically draft free and kind of a consistent temperature. It's not going to be too cool or drafty or anything like that, which is what you want for proofing dough. So we'll pick it back up in an hour and a half. Okay, it's been an hour and a half and our dough has risen, and it's about twice as big as when it started, and that's exactly what we want. So the next thing I have to do is sort of punch the dough down, and that involves sort of just squishing it back down and pushing most of that air back out of it. And from here, it's a matter of dividing up the dough and sort of forming it into the shape of our sub buns. And I want to do my best to cut this in half such that we have pretty equal pieces. And because we're going to be forming these into basically big rectangles, I like to try to get a rough rectangle going before I even cut it to make sure that it feels like the dough is pretty evenly distributed on both halves and amongst each half. Now, again, we want to turn these into rectangles and flatten them out a bit more than they currently are. We're going to be rolling these up, so we need a little bit of space to actually do that. So gently sort of stretching and pulling on the dough to give yourself a bigger rectangle to start rolling is the key. And this is the step I probably have the most difficulty with, because if you don't get this dough in the right shape that you want it, as you form these into the shape of a sub bun, they're going to end up being lopsided or heavier on one side or something like that. So if I end up with lopsided buns, this is the step that's the cause of that. Now once I've got something that hopefully resembles a long rectangle, we can start rolling it up. And I'm just gonna start rolling from the end closest to me, just a little bit at a time, trying to roll it pretty tightly, just all the way up and down the length of the dough. Once I get almost to the end, I'm going to sort of do my best to tuck in the ends. I never can get those quite perfect, but I can get them pretty close. And then we'll just finish rolling it. And now we've got a pretty big ugly seam here, and we want to pinch this tight and basically seal the seam. Just take your time to make sure that's really well sealed, all these little seams. And I see here that I've got a little air bubble in the dough that I didn't manage to press out. So I'm just going to pierce that real slightly with the pointy knife so I can get that air pocket out of there before I continue rolling this thing. So now that we've got the basic shape of our sub bun, we're going to roll it a little more. That's going to let us stretch it a little bit longer and also give me a chance to kind of address the fact that this bun is a little heavier on this side than on this side. So I might try to roll this side a little more than the rest of it to try to even that out just a little bit. But at this point, you're not going to be able to manipulate the length or the thickness of this thing a whole lot because this dough is very stretchy. And if you start stretching it out and rolling it thinner, it has a tendency to just start shrinking back up this way. All right, I'm pretty happy with this one right here. I'm a little worried about this sort of edge right here in the dough. That was kind of a byproduct of having folded that end in. This might look a little funny as this thing starts rising and baking. Overall, I think this is pretty good. Again, you want these things pretty long if you're making huge buns like me. Otherwise, they're going to end up getting super thick and fat and short. It's going to be a really wacky looking sub sandwich that you end up with. So now I'm just going to do the same thing to the second piece. And I'll just sort of fast forward through this because you already saw me do it. Okay, that second one might have actually gone a little better than the first one. So now we're going to get these on some baking sheets. Now these do have to rise again, but once I put them on this sheet, they're not going to be moved from that sheet until they're completely done baking and ready. So this is the time when I need to use either a piece of parchment paper or sprinkle some cornmeal on the baking sheet so the dough doesn't stick to it. And I've tried both parchment paper and cornmeal extensively, and I gotta say I've found the cornmeal to, for whatever reason, produce a better product. I don't think it has as good of a non-stick property as the parchment paper, but for whatever reason, the buns themselves come out better. So I'm just gonna lay them out here on the sheet. And now I need to cover these again with some plastic wrap, but first I'm gonna give them a quick spritz with the squirt bottle. It's just a real light mist to keep them a little bit moist on top. And then we're gonna gently lay a piece of cellophane right over top. We wanna make sure that this cellophane is not obstructed or sort of wrapped underneath the baking dish. Otherwise, it might inhibit the rising of the dough. And now we just have to let this dough rise again until these things are quite a bit bigger than they currently are. And so once again, I'm just gonna stick this thing in the oven turned off, and let them do their second rising. And this time I'm gonna go between 1.5 to 2 hours. So we'll pick it up then. Okay, it's been 2 hours and the second rising has completed, and this is what we have. As I feared, this one's a little misshapen at the end here and a little thicker down here, but that's not gonna matter. It's still gonna make a wonderful sub, so I'm not worried about it. Now just a couple other little things we have to do, and then we're gonna start baking this. But for now, I've got the oven preheating at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And the first thing we're gonna do is cut a very shallow slit into each of these buns. When you start baking the dough, it starts rapidly expanding. There's a chance that the dough could split somewhere. So by cutting a little tiny slit, we can sort of decide where that split or expansion might happen. And it actually, in this case, can contribute to a better rise in the oven. So you can use a razor blade, or they may even make a special dough scoring tool that I can't think of the name of, but I just use my super sharp kitchen knife. I'm not gonna do the top, I'm not gonna do the side. I'm gonna go kind of in between at about a 45-degree angle, just all the way the length of the dough, just the shallowest little slit. And that's it. And now I'm just going to apply a basic egg wash. It's 1 egg mixed with about a teaspoon of water, scrambled up and applied with a brush. This is going to help give us that beautiful golden brown color on the tops. If you want a much lighter brown color, you could do something like a milk wash or no wash at all. It's completely optional, but if you don't do any wash, I do recommend giving the dough one more mist from the squirt bottle of water. Just get a little more moisture on the dough before baking. And the last thing I'm gonna do before we're gonna stick these in the oven is shake some sesame seeds on it. You could also sprinkle some herbs or some Parmesan cheese. Me, I like the classic sesame seed, and in fact, I'm sort of recreating a specific bun from a certain restaurant, and that's what they use, so that's what I like to use. Now we're moving over to the oven. And one more little step before we put the dough into the oven, and that's we're gonna throw a handful of ice cubes into the oven. I've just got a random old casserole dish in the lower rack of the oven. I'm gonna throw the ice cubes in. They're gonna immediately start sort of boiling and steaming, and give a little extra steam in the oven to help the moisture content, and that'll contribute to a more tender, sort of chewy, non-brittle, non-crumbly sub bun. Now I'm gonna put in the dough, and we're gonna give it 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna turn that whole tray around, give it another 10 minutes, and then we're gonna be good. And here's our finished product, 2 beautiful, huge sub buns. I'm gonna let these cool almost completely, or at least enough for me to be able to handle them, and then I'll move them onto a wire rack to finish cooling. After they've been on this wire rack a couple more hours, and I'm certain that they're 100% cooled down, I'll store them in one of my great big Ziploc bags, or if you've got other kinds of large bread bags, that would work too. Closing them up in some kind of bag is going to, of course, keep them from going stale before very long. And in fact, it can actually make them even a little bit more soft. And I might as well end this video with some footage of what will actually be from my next video, where I turn these things into a great big venison steak and cheese sandwich. So I guess you can kind of see the sub buns in action. Otherwise, that's it for now. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date with all our latest stuff, including future food videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time right here in the Great Lakes Kitchen.